Orders of the day.
Second reading of Bill 172, an act to improve energy affordability through distributed energy resources and deep retrofit. Mr. Tabuns.
I recognize the member for Toronto-Danforth.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I move second reading of Bill 172, an act to improve energy affordability through distributed energy resources and deep retrofits.
Mr. Tabuns has moved second reading of Bill 172, an act to improve energy affordability through distributed energy resources and deep retrofits. Pursuant to Standing Order 100, the member has 12 minutes for his presentation.
Speaker, I'm pleased to lead off the debate on Bill 172, the Affordable Energy Act. This legislation, which I am proud to co-sponsor with my colleagues, MPPs Pasma, Bell and Begum, would, if passed, create a new public agency called Affordable Energy Ontario. Affordable Energy Ontario would have a mandate to do two things: support deep energy retrofits to homes and buildings across Ontario, and oversee the creation of community sources of energy known by the technical name of distributed energy resources. Deep retrofits help to reduce the amount of electricity and other energy required to power a home. This has the benefit of lowering your energy bills while also reducing demand on the power grid. Meanwhile, community sources of energy, such as solar panels on roofs or over parking spaces, provide a cost-effective, stable source of energy that can provide energy credit to the owner, further reducing their bills while also providing more power to the grid. And, Speaker, if properly configured, ensuring that those solar panels are on a home or in a neighborhood, they can provide power to residents during a power failure, something that happened recently in the state of Victoria in Australia. We face three big challenges when it comes to electricity in Ontario: cost, reliability, and sustainability. This initiative addresses all three. So first, let's talk about affordability. I think everyone in this chamber, everyone who's watching this debate on a screen, knows how tough things are out there. People are stretched, they're stressed, they're anxious about meeting their bills, they're frustrated by high costs. They expect us to make their lives more affordable. So when it comes to electricity and energy generally, they want us to put affordable energy at the top of the list. Energy efficiency is the cheapest way to provide homes with electricity. The Independent Electricity System Operator, the IESO, has said it. Even the Minister of Energy has said it, which is a shocker to me, but nonetheless true. Both have said the cheapest kilowatt hour is the one you save rather than generate. The IESO, the Electricity Distributors Association, and Royal Bank of Canada have all put out reports showing savings for families and for the electrical system from investment and efficiency. Affordable Energy Ontario will have the power to organize, promote, and provide financing for deep retrofits for homes across Ontario with a goal of making them zero emissions and net zero energy use. A deep retrofit, for those who are not familiar with the term, is one that thoroughly insulates a home, all the walls, the roof, the basement, upgrades windows, seals air leaks, and uses heat exchangers to capture heat from any air vented out of a building. Tries to maximize the amount of energy kept in a building in winter and maximize the cooling kept in a building in summer. Natural Resources Canada notes that deep home retrofits can cut energy bills by 60%, and by locking in savings through reduced consumption, residents are shielded to a great degree from future price rises. Deep retrofits also dramatically reduce electrical demand so that large-scale introduction of energy and cost-saving heat pumps will make much less demand on the electricity grid. Less demand on the energy grid means less money spent on building transmission lines, saving money for the whole electricity system. Twinned with deep retrofits is the introduction of solar panels and battery storage to homes and neighborhoods, so those homes and neighborhoods can generate as much energy as they consume. Again, renewable power located at the point of consumption allows us to avoid large investment in generation and transmission at a cost below what we're paying now. A consulting company, Dunsky, provide a report to the ISO that showed that distributed energy sources located on or near homes and other users, could provide real reductions in costs for homeowners and the system as a whole. And frankly, Speaker, not just homeowners, but tenants as well. Energy users in Ontario need a break financially, and making sure they get heating and cooling they need from local power and reduced demand will give them a financial boost. As everyone here knows, Ontario now spends about $7 billion a year to subsidize electricity costs in Ontario. The less electricity people need, the more they generate at home, the less we'll have to spend on those subsidies, freeing money up for other uses, like our education system, our healthcare system. We're going through an energy transition away from fossil fuels. I think it's just common sense to develop a plan for that transition that focuses on the lowest cost sustainable options first. Efficiency and conservation are the cheapest options, and we should fully develop them before we go on to the next most cost-effective option, and so on, to minimize cost impacts. The second concern I noted was reliability, and my colleague, MPP Pasma, has talked about the impact of severe climate-driven storms on power reliability in Ottawa. As she's written, as Ottawa experiences more severe storms due to climate change, Ottawa residents, unfortunately, are getting used to spending multiple days in the dark. Just last Easter, a surprise April ice storm took out power for over 170,000 residents, many of them waiting over the long weekend to have hydro restored. A thunderstorm in July required multiple days to clean up, leaving over 37,000 people without electricity. A tornado that same month also knocked out power to 1,600 homes in Barrhaven, and that was just 2023. Because these outages are lengthy, they're challenging for residents to live through. She heard from many people on fixed incomes who are deeply upset at having to throw out a fridge or freezer worth of food every time this happens, knowing they can't afford to replace it. Seniors and people with disabilities who live in multi-story apartment or condo buildings were trapped in their own homes without access to food, water, or medical care. Those who need life-saving devices struggle to find power sources. Ottawa has been incredibly lucky so far. Each of these storms has been followed by a reasonably temperate period of weather. It's only a matter of time until in Ottawa we have a period of freezing cold or severe heat while the power is out, putting lives at risk and increasing the scale of the emergency response required. Every time one of these power outages happens, the city has to spend resources on wellness checks, evacuations, emergency response, and community respite centres where folks can find hot food, a shower, and a place to charge devices. These outages are not just costly for individuals, they affect Ottawa's bottom line too, which is why we need to look at ways to address the perils of power outages while also fighting climate change and making life more affordable. As I had noted earlier, a recent report by Dunsky Consultants for Ontario's independent electricity system operator concluded that these kinds of energy sources, distributed resources, solar panels in neighbourhoods on buildings, along with other technologies, could meet all new peak demand in Ontario in a cost-effective manner. And just last month, Nova Scotia introduced its own community solar program. Having these community sources of energy also means that many homes and communities will have a local power supply that can power their homes when the grid is down. This may not be enough power to run every electronic device in your home, but enough to keep you warm, keep the lights on, and the fridge on. And let's face it, climate-driven extreme weather is going to mean our grid is increasingly under assault. To the extent that homes and businesses need much less power and have more power locally, the easier it will be to ride out the storms. And that extreme weather is coming from climate change. We'll have to adapt to the changes already on the way, but it will be critical to reduce emissions from the electricity and energy systems to avoid even worse extreme weather. Ontario's drive to build and operate even more gas-fired power plants means more global heating. Cost-effective options, like the ones that we propose with this bill, can reduce and eliminate the need for gas-fired power. That's critical to meeting our climate goals and protecting ourselves. Cutting energy demand enough to allow the transition away from natural gas over the next few decades is critical to meeting our overall climate goals. Buildings are responsible for about 25% of our greenhouse gas emissions in Ontario. We can't meet our goals for reducing emissions and protecting ourselves from climate disasters without substantially cutting use of natural gas. A program of deep retrofits for buildings and distributed renewable energy is the most cost-effective way to meet that goal quickly, and we need to meet it quickly. The longer we put off reducing emissions into the atmosphere, the hotter it's going to get and the more disastrous the consequences, the more expensive. In the mid-2000s, the British government published a report, the Stern Report, on the economic consequences of climate change. It showed that the climate change that we were expecting to experience, and still expect to experience, would result in economic impacts on our society comparable to the Great Depression or World War II. This was not a fever dream. This was a detailed analysis of what climate change can and will do if we don't act. Just recently, a new study by the British Institute of Actuaries illustrated the scale of risk we face. Actuaries are the people who work for insurance companies. They calculate risk on different classes of insurance. They calculate the potential return on pensions. Their report warns that current risk assessments by the financial industry are woefully inadequate because they don't accurately assess how big the risks are. We could see a rise of 2 degrees in world temperatures by 2050 with dramatic damage to our economy. Don't expect pension funds to pay out in those situations. Actuaries professionally assess risk, and they professionally believe that the assessments currently in vogue in governments and financial institutions are way off the mark. Before I wrap up, I want to thank Jeff Stiles and Roger Peters for their work in developing this bill and ensuring that it was grounded in the real energy options that we have before us. Their long history of energy analysis and proposals were extremely valuable in putting this bill together. The opportunity, Speaker, is there to act, an opportunity to cut our cost of living and to protect us from some of the consequences of climate change. I urge people to seize the opportunity, pass this bill, and put it into effect. Thank you.